Oh no, bitch, I'm still here. Readers, the last movie coming out from Marvel Studios this year is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I am so happy. It's definitely one that I'm ready for after seeing Infinity War twice. But after going through the first big event year in superhero films, thanks to the MCU, it caused me to remember simpler days in Marvel movies. Which is why for this Readus Relives, I want to reflect on my top 5 favorite Marvel movies that weren't made by Marvel Studios. And yes, you're right. None of them include Deadpool. Number 5, Daredevil. This was back in the day when Fox attempted to give a fuck, and I at least appreciated that they did once upon a time. They were definitely trying to hop on that SpiderMan bandwagon by giving solo superheroes a shot, and if they did things differently, it could have worked. More specifically, if they made better decisions in the writing and the directing, because time has just proven that casting Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock was not why people disliked this movie. Nowadays, the movie just comes off as a typical Batman clone as far as stylization points and story beats, as opposed to what Netflix is currently doing with the character. But it's definitely more memorable than the Elektra movie spinoff that happened because of it. And I barely remember that shit. Number 4, Fantastic Four. I'm sorry. I admit, I'm one of those people who still kind of enjoy the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies. I was a fan of how they used practical effects for The Thing. I thought that the elements from the This Man, This Monster arc were used pretty well, especially given that this was an origin story movie. And I'm a fan of Julian McMahon's Dr. Doom. Where's everybody going? No, but for real, I've always been a fan of Dr. Doom in the comics, but I've never really seen this depiction of Dr. Doom as like the most horrible version of Dr. Doom in cinematic history. I leave that up to Doom and Fan Four Stick, which I still haven't seen, but I know. As far as I'm concerned, compared to the remake it got 10 years later, Fantastic Four is definitely the better movie. Number 3, Blade 2. As much as I appreciate the first one, Blade 2 will always be my favorite. And a lot of it has to do with Guillermo del Toro's direction, Wesley Snipes' dedication, and the overall chemistry he and the rest of the supporting actors had on set. Oh yeah, and whatever magic they worked in order to make David Goyer's script workable without having to call Jonathan Nolan in for rewrites. I found the whole concept of a new breed of vampires that are able to feed off of and turn original vampires into their form of vampires absolutely interesting. And I thought Blade having to interact and work with other vampires made for some very necessary moments for his character to properly grow, which it definitely did by the end of this movie. While the first one was rooted in revenge as the overall theme, Blade 2 dug a bit deeper into the character while still proving to be a very good action/horror flick. Number 2, Spider-Man 2. Yes, I know that Spider-Man 2 is like the top tier in superhero movies right now, but I have a legitimate reason why it's my number 2 instead of my number 1. Spider-Man 2 is definitely an example of a director putting the right amount of care and time into a project that they are passionate about, with actors that are dedicated playing the characters that they're passionate about, and a creative team willing to put in the same amount of time and effort as them. The reason why Spider-Man 2 works so well is because Sam Raimi had the ability to make the movie that he wanted to make and put all the emphasis on the shit that actually mattered. That included source material adaptation, fleshing out and developing characters, and not just making any and everything that the studio told him to make. That comes at Spider-Man 3. And while this movie is pretty much the perfect example of a creative passion project gone right, I would like to argue that my number 1 choice did it a bit better. My number 1? The Punisher. No, not Warzone. Fuck Warzone. Tom Hardy's Punisher, bitch. Yes, his origin story is different. Yes, there's some janky-ass CGI near the end of the movie because early Lionsgate. But there was a creative team behind this movie and an actor that knew the ins and outs of Frakes so well that everything that we saw on screen was poetry in motion. The executions, the gunfights, the regular fights, the setups, Jesus Christ, the setups. Castle's overall mindset and psyche, everything was pretty much perfect. Flaws and all, it remains my favorite non-MCU related Marvel movie. Because the director, the writer, and the actor just gave so many fucks right off the bat about making this the most entertaining movie that was both respectful to the source material and the character in it. But nevertheless, I'm curious, readers. So your homework for the day is to write in the comment section below what your favorite non-MCU related Marvel movie is. Or, you know, tell me how wrong my list is, which is pretty much what you're going to do anyway. If you want to support the channel, you can buy official merchandise by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.